Alrighty, and we are back with Rick. Rick, what's up, dude?
Not much. How's it going?
I've been giggling all morning from a clip you sent me this morning, and I think I'm going to just show it even before we talk about anything serious, just because I can't stop watching it. I'm obsessed.
Yeah, I just sent it to you like an hour ago. Yeah, let's play that because it sums up a lot of what's going on right now.
Yeah, so in a rare instance, we're going to lead with a clip, but I just can't stop. Just can't stop watching it. I'm absolutely obsessed with this clip. So here we go. Now this is on what's his show? Mad Money?
Yeah, I think the guy in the center is the Mad Money guy, and he's on another CNBC show in this clip.
Okay, yeah, because most people are just going to be listening. So for the context, what we're looking at here, we're looking at what's his name? Kramer?
Yeah, Jim Cramer, I think.
Yeah, the only other Kramer.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's play this bad boy.
Yeah, Citi today takes it to 130.
Yeah, but the president, the U.S. government got in. They could sell it and give
Yes,
that
and
the
according
number.
to the filings, the president's been trading some intel in the quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, trade.
Got nothing to say about it?
But. Yeah.
All right, don't worry. We're not having technical difficulties here, everybody, but we got to go.
Jim, we'll see you tonight. Mad Money, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. S&P 7433. Don't go away.
It just that's what it is when you're actually having to explain what this is what's happening. Like what? How? Oh yeah, man, the president's stealing a lot of money, right? There's no words.
Yeah, and this guy has been on the air for 30 years hosting a show about finances and politics, and it's so funny that this is the biggest story in the U.S. right now, and he couldn't have less prepared. He's just so flabbergasted by the question.
And the guy said it like as a little joke. It wasn't like he was like, Kramer, explain the president's illicit activities. He was just saying like, hey, the president's making a lot of money this way, huh? And
Right.
like 20 seconds.
You all right there, Jim? All right, we're going to go to commercial.
All right, he'll be back. The guy responds with more. There's a moment where they're just making that sound. I don't know. First of all, news bloopers in general were the OG good comedy bits on YouTube and stuff.
Love them.
So I'll never not have a soft spot for news bloopers. Like I just love bloopers. But on top of it, just like you said, it's almost like poetry for living in the U.S. in 2026. Like, what's going on here, Jim? That's how else could you explain it? That was perfect. Anyway, I really enjoy that clip.
Yeah,
what's actually a good idea?
Stuff.
We should, people should send in their favorite clips.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, we have our new email, media@thelonelyliberal.com. I haven't been doing a good job plugging that enough. So yes, media@thelonelyliberal.com. Send in your clips.
Yes, please do.
Your clips and questions.
Yeah. Political adjacent, even non-political, if it's entertaining enough.
Exactly. I mean, we used to really advertise your love expertise, and
Exactly.
I've been biting my tongue, but maybe we need to start yammering again about
I mean, the listeners are clamoring for our take on Mike Vrabel, but so we'll have to wait for the next photo release that comes out, and
or a clip of
do a
Rossini
segment.
talking about how much she hates her husband.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite. Like her just being like, "I married a loser. What do you expect?" They keep playing those. They're so funny. But anyway, we got a lot of news to talk about. We were talking about before the show. Our fourth or fifth story should be the number one in any normal week, but this is just an absolute monster. A monster week.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the one we should start with, order of operations, is that Mr. Thomas Massie was defeated in his primary by the Trump-endorsed Ed Gallrein. I think that's how you say his name. It was the most expensive House primary of all time in terms of campaign donations, with $32 million. Now, obviously, Massie was the co-sponsor of the Epstein Transparency Act, and also he was against the Iran war, I think, or he was one of the people trying to get the war powers thing going. But that's basically it in terms of his non-MAGA views. So it's pretty, just shows you one thing. All you need is one thing off of Trump, and he'll get you.
Yeah, exactly. And it really was the Epstein files, which I feel like kind of makes this whole thing a net negative for Trump. Even
it makes him look guilty.
Right. Even though he ended up getting his guy to win over the incumbent, which seems like a win for Trump, the big takeaway is going to be Trump went on revenge against the only Republican that wanted the Epstein files released.
I mean, it should be that.
Right.
I don't know if I've heard that messaging enough. You know, like if I'm the DNC, who we will be talking about later, and their fumblings, that should be everywhere. Isn't it funny how the one Epstein guy Trump wanted out? Isn't that funny?
Right. And I think the takeaway is obviously like Trump still has total control over the Republican Party. The fact that he can endorse another guy against a popular incumbent and then that guy just easily wins.
It's crazy.
Even in a local race, obviously it's a House race, so it's not like statewide or anything, is crazy. But also like it's a very Trump district. Trump won with 67% of the vote or whatever in 2024. So I don't know if it really says anything about the midterms or how Trump's popularity is overall outside of Republicans. But I think within the Republican Party, it shows that it's just the Trump party.
Yeah, and I think also it shows how different Trump's ability to campaign for active races. We don't normally see presidents have their own super PAC. MAGA Inc. is his super PAC. Like, a lot of the times when I'm talking to people about this stuff, they say something along the lines of, the Republicans are really bending to Trump. He must have something on them, as if he's got some lewd photo of them or something. No. He has money, and this is exactly how he uses his money to defeat his enemies. They're terrified of losing their jobs. That's what it is. It's not like they have some cabal in the background that he's going to unveil if you go against the Godfather. He just funds the other candidate. And I don't think people appreciate that enough. That's what they're scared of. They're scared of this. This is what they're scared of.
Right. And I would be remiss if we didn't mention there was a little scandalous news article about Thomas Massie.
Yeah, we need to talk about this. Yeah, you told me about this last night. I didn't even know about this.
Yeah, an ex-partner of girlfriend, I guess you could say, claims that she had an affair with Thomas Massie about a year or two ago and claimed that Thomas Massie repeatedly referred to his penis as his pine cone. I don't...
Rule 1, never refer your penis as anything ever frankly, in any context, no matter who you are. No remarks. And if you're having an affair, please don't make that remark. It will come out and you will get a news report how you you have a little pine cone.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, definitely could have picked, an eggplant or some sort of natural thing that's known for being a little bit longer.
And not so sharp.
Yeah. The woman also claimed he bragged about having an affair with Lauren Boebert at the same time his wife was fighting cancer, which is an interesting thing to brag about to your new girlfriend. I had an affair with Ice Barbie last week.
And also, dude, well, it reminds you of that this is how far the GOP has fallen, that this is their moderate hero, Mr. Pinecone. Himself, and it's just, well, did you see his concession call? He was like, I'm calling Tel Aviv to get in touch with Ed Gallrein. I don't know if that was actually true, but effectively is true, like the AIPAC influence and stuff like that.
Right. Although, he's trying to phrase it like Trump defeated him because he was anti-Israel.
Exactly.
Which, obviously maybe that's a small part of it, but he defeated him because he made a massive deal of the Epstein files for months.
Exactly, and I worry that that's going to get lost in the sauce because AIPAC money is even more maybe contentious now than Epstein, which is just shows you how interesting this world is. Another thing that I thought didn't get enough news coverage was that the defense secretary, Mr. Peter Hegseth, he campaigned against Massie. He went to Kentucky to campaign against him. I'm almost certain that's against the law, right? Isn't that what the Hatch Act literally is supposed to be? You can't directly campaign for in any official capacity, and that's the whole point of super PACs, effectively, to avoid breaking the Hatch Act. So shouldn't that be a big deal? Question mark, question mark. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I feel like the world we lived in right after Citizens United, when super PACs were created, people really harped on the technical differences between a super PAC and a PAC. And obviously the issue with super PACs is they can take unlimited anonymous donations. They're not limited to the $12,000 per cycle that you can give directly to a candidate. And I feel like that was like taken seriously, 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. Whereas now it's just all bets are off. Even naming a super PAC MAGA, which is the slogan for one specific person.
Yeah, should be illegal.
Right. Like super PACs used to be like Charlie Kirk's, like talking points where it's like, oh, we're just a conservative super PAC that happens to endorse Republicans all the time. But we're strictly forbidden from cooperating with the official campaign or official PAC of the candidates. Whereas now they just don't care about that because they know no one's going to prosecute for them. So they're just like, let's just call this super PAC MAGA. Like,
why don't they prosecute for this, though? Like, why not? Like, how come that Hatch Act is such a joke? Like, is it just like the way they wrote it? I don't like why. What's the point of that law?
I'm not sure.
It's so weird. So Trump, of course, had a comment on Truth Social. He said, the worst congressman in the long and storied history of the Republican Party is Thomas Massie. He is an obstructionist and a fool. He may be a fool, as we found out from the Pinecone incident, but he's definitely not. I don't know, obstructionist is the right word.
Yeah, didn't he vote with Trump like 96% of the time or something?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, you just have to be completely loyal. There's no. There's no.
And this is a guy who, like, he breaks with Trump on certain issues like Israel and Epstein files, but on other issues, he's actually more extreme. He is famously one that, like, would withhold funding for disaster response.
Yeah.
And he's he takes fiscal conservatism to like the absolute extreme.
Yep. He's like a Rand Paul type. Like that's
right.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's a radical for sure. It's just he's not a radical MAGA specifically, which is what created the riff.
Which is what he's in the same bucket as like Marjorie Taylor Greene in that way. Like where I guess you could say it's more respectable because they believe they're nonsense rather than completely not. But right. I don't know. Also on the endorsement train, we can call it the Trump revenge tour. Trump has officially endorsed Paxton over Cornyn, I think you'd say, in the Texas Senate runoff. So he's endorsed Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton over incumbent Senator John Cornyn. So again, another incumbent getting punished for God knows what, in God knows why. And this is really a massacre of the incumbents. They really are having a tough go.
Yeah, and this one, way more than Massie, is a Trump guy. Like, Cornyn's a MAGA Trump Texas Republican. He's never been seen as even like a Bill Cassidy type, who is also MAGA, but just not MAGA enough, obviously. Cornyn's probably the most MAGA guy that Trump has gotten revenge on this revenge tour. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
totally.
It's probably the most ridiculous example of Trump feeling slighted by this guy disagreeing with him like 0.5% of the time.
In a way that I don't even know. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's so subtle, it's hard to even point to. And what makes it even crazier is that Paxton, the Attorney General, right? He was impeached by the Texas House in 2023 for securities fraud. And the charges are dropped in 2024 from some nonsense. You know what I mean? So this guy literally was impeached for corruption to take out a senator that he completely agrees with. Like that's
right.
The framing. That's real.
There's one reason And one reason only Trump likes Ken Paxton, because you know how Trump very much latches on to like one fact or one thing.
Exactly. Totally.
The thing with Ken Paxton is he always brags about, I've sued the Biden administration over 100 times as Attorney General. That's his big claim to fame. I can guarantee you that's the only thing Trump knows about him. I bet Trump couldn't tell you anything else about this guy's life other than he's Texas AG who loves suing Biden, which means he's a great guy.
Love that guy. Well, they hate Biden. And yeah, speaking of Biden, I mean, maybe the biggest news story of the week outside of, I think, Massie is this slush fund. And I did the Wednesday show about it, so I'm going to talk less. People can hear my full breakdown on it if they want to listen to the Wednesday show. But the TLDR, the high level thing, is that the Trump administration sued the IRS in January for Trump's tax returns, I guess, getting leaked a few years ago, for $10 billion. Now, it was years ago, and obviously $10 billion is more than Trump's entire net worth. So the number was always cartoonish. Anyways, it was then dropped, and I think originally people thought that was a good news. Like, people were reporting it as like a win, like, oh, he's dropping this lawsuit. But what they didn't realize, at least initially, was it was a settlement. He settled with himself, and part of that settlement was the creation of what they're calling the anti-weaponization fund, which is a $1.8 billion slush fund that's specifically being used to cover legal damages that people say are caused by the Biden administration. And so Todd Blanche, the attorney general, was asked to come to Congress to talk about it. And he explicitly said this is effectively for the January 6 people. But he also said MAGA Inc., the Trump PAC that we were just talking about, can also dip from it. And frankly, anyone, and people have already started. So one of the guys who was like meddling with COVID release, he's already asked for $2 million. So the applications are open. What do you think about this?
Yeah, the whole thing is crazy. And the fact that there's no oversight into this slush fund for criminals who attacked a federal, but like none of it makes any sense, right? Like the federal government is paying a bunch of people that violently attacked it, basically.
Yeah.
A bunch of criminals that most of whom have already been pardoned.
They were all
for their crimes.
No, completely all pardoned from their crimes. Yeah.
So the thing is absolutely insane, and it's so much money too that like it's realistic that some of these Jan 6 guys could get 5 figures each from this.
100%.
Like some guys are walking away like, I just got a $50,000 check for knocking over a Capitol police officer 6 years ago, you know?
And Capitol policemen died. It should be noted. It's so funny. So every time we talk about January 6th on the show, I get MAGA comments saying, you know, stop calling it an insurrection. It was more just a riot or a protest. Like, they get really hung up on the definition of insurrection versus non-insurrection. Like, I'm guarantee you there are people fuming right now because of this. But even if you wanted to call it a protest, which I wouldn't, but even if you wanted to, it is without a doubt true that it was a violent protest that destroyed federal property and ultimately led to the death of Capitol Police. Like, that's not a sugarcoating. Like, that's the most moderate, washed down version of what you could describe it, you know? Like, and so not only were they comfortable with literally, I think it's like almost 2,000 people, right? Like, or like something like that, like 1,600, something like that. People getting pardoned. Now they get an unlimited fund to dip into because of their legal fees. Here's the kicker, Rick. Not only is this insane, there's a clause written in here that says that once the money is issued, the U.S. government isn't allowed to see how it's spent. So if you're a January 6er, you could get a $50,000 check and then buy a car. Like, it doesn't have to go to legal fees. That's crazy. That's so crazy.
Right. It's literally just like a bonus check, like from your employer.
But for literally raiding
job.
the Capitol.
Right.
Well, that framing is so good because that is what it was. Their employer was Trump. He was the one who told them to do it. And now he's giving them a bonus.
Right. Exactly. And I totally agree with you about the violent protest thing. Obviously, though, the reason it's an insurrection is because the intent was to prevent them from
certifying the election.
Certifying
the 100%. No, it is an insurrect, but
yeah, Todd Blanche, it couldn't be written in like a more partisan possible way. Like it even in the fund, like it even talks about like protecting from Democratic revenge or something like that. Like they mentioned Democrats specifically. And also another slimy move is like Blanche being pushed on this, and he says, well, in the document it says the fund can be audited by a third party, which is interesting phrasing, right? It doesn't have to be audited. It could be.
By a third party of my choice.
Right, exactly. But then clarified the third party would be chosen by Todd Blanche. So it's like it could be audited by somebody neutral, but it definitely won't be.
And for those who don't know, Todd Blanche was the personal attorney of Trump during the Stormy Daniels hush money trial. So he has good experience with protecting Trump's hush money. Like literally his only claim to fame is literally being his attorney for Trump using hush money funds to sleep with a porn star. It's unbelievable. I mean, and like, I just, again, like, and then we can move on. Not only is this just so crazy, like, it's again about how little Republicans care about fiscal responsibility. And I just want to keep hammering that in because every single time you ask for healthcare or education assistance or environmental protections or whatnot, like that's something that would benefit the common good. We live in a free market. We can't give money to the crap. What do you think? We're made of money? Blah, 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 blah. We got to balance the budget. The debt's out of control. $1.8 billion to give to the January 6ers. Last week, $1.8 billion to pay offshore wind developers to not build projects. And then $100 billion on an Iran war that nobody asked for. This is such a joke. If there's one thing I want people to take away from this Trump presidency, which they should have taken away from the first term, but they really need to not let it in their collective amnesia that will happen the day Trump leaves office, is that Republicans are not economically savvy. They're horrible at the economy. Like, they always tank it. They always do. They don't care about spending money. They don't care about being fiscally reasonable. There are like two dudes who think that way, and they're nuts, Massie and Rand Paul. That's it. Right. Like, shut up about these fiscally genius conservatives. That's the biggest myth of all time, and it drives me crazy, as you can tell. But what do you what do you think?
Yeah, it drives me crazy, and they only care about it when a Democrat's in office.
Or when you're asking for social services. Like, if you need money for negotiating insulin prices, they go, well, come on, guys, it's a free market. The private sector has to take care of this. We can't ever spend money. We're in debt. But if they need $1 billion to give to January 6ers so they can buy a new condo in Palm Beach, sure, we got money, open the coffers. Like, it just, like, it's so crazy how full of shit they are when it comes to, like, government frugality, you know, like, it's, totally. That is the biggest lie. It can never be, like, they gave ICE a budget that would make them the 15th largest military budget in the world. Like, they pull money out of nowhere. So I hate them. I just can't stand them. They drive me nuts, man. So anyway, I wanted to add this little nugget. So Capitol police officers have sued. 2 police officers who defended the Capitol on January 6th filed a lawsuit seeking to have the fund declared illegal. I just wanted to tell you what Chuck Schumer's response was. It sums up my issues with him and our issues with him perfectly. Chuck Schumer introduced legislation that would put 100% tax on any payments from the fund. And it's just like, that's of course how he handles it. Like some little tax gambit, like blah, 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 blah. Like what it should be is just, are you kidding me? This is illegal. We're going to make a law that bans this.
Right.
Not some sort of little funny little wonky little trick. You know what I mean? Like,
right. My economic advisor came up with a clever incentive to discourage them from using the money. So shut the fuck up.
Shut up. We filed an affidavit. Blah, 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 blah. It's just like, isn't it just like classic? Like they do some stupid little politics thing instead of just being like, "Are you kidding me? We're banning this. Like this is a slush fund." Like,
yeah, and it's almost like Schumer is like bound by some blood oath to be a centrist on every possible issue. Like
it's
every
crazy.
time Trump does something, and it's like, should we fight fire with fire? No. We definitely should take the most like milquetoast moderate way we possibly can. That like the Brookings Institution recommended we do because, you know, it's more legally sound if it ends up to the courts. Like they're thinking about all these. Schumer is just stuck in pre-Trump, maybe even pre-Obama political world. Like he really is. He's still acting like he's like going toe-to-toe with Newt Gingrich in 1997.
It does. On the exercise bike, sweating to trying to negotiate housing.
He has to go. He's up. So he's up for re-election in 2028. So not this time, but he's got to be primaried. Obviously, people want AOC to do it,
but she may run for president. Frankly, like,
yeah.
I mean, whoever it is. I mean, it would be tough to be worse than Chuck Schumer. You know, at this point, like in terms of meeting the moment, he could not meet it. We filed an amicus brief. like, dude, just like do something. And anyways, it's just, and it speaks to a larger issue with the DNC. And it leads well to the DNC autopsy that was released this week. First of all, I love that it's called the autopsy report because it just implies that it was like they were dead. Just like they were like examining a dead body. But when in reality, it's the same people. Like autopsy. Like you all have your jobs. Like you're doing the same thing. Like your answer to Trump was do the same. So like, I don't know. I think DNC autopsy may be a little like giving them too much credit with like their ending of their past. It's more like looking in the mirror report. They're alive and well. Anyway, so DNC chair Ken Martin released this report about the 2024 election Thursday after facing pressure mostly from Kamala Harris to do so. She was really the one pressing for it. I think because of her inevitable 2028 running, she wanted to like show like, look, I'm doing what I can, which I agree. Ken Martin has done everything in his power since to discredit this autopsy report, saying, quote, "It does not meet my standards." And this is the longer quote. "I am not proud of this product. It does not meet my standards, and it won't meet your standards. I don't endorse what's in this report or what's left out of it. I could not, in good faith, put the DNC's stamp of approval on it. But transparency is paramount. So today I'm releasing the report as I received it, in its entirety, unedited, unabridged, with annotations for claims that couldn't be verified." So that's ridiculous. Here's something that's so funny, is that the main author who was fired the day it came out, Rivera,
who's Martin's friend. Martin chose his friend Rivera to write the report and is now kind of throwing him under the bus.
Yeah, he's fired. Dude, Rivera didn't interview Biden, Harris, or Tim Walz, or any of their top aides, really, in the making of this report, which is just baffling. I have no words. And the main findings of the report were saying that the Democrats failed to set Kamala up for success. The attacks on Donald Trump were ineffective, and it urges the party to move away from identity politics and spend resources earlier. Here's the other thing, and this is the last thing I'm going to say before I'll let you go, is that this week, the RNC, right, the Republican National Committee, reported having $124 million in cash. The DNC reported that it's negative $3 million. They're $3 million in debt.
Yeah.
This is a joke. This party is a joke. It's an embarrassment. And when people say, every time the people act like the Democrats are this puppet master genius doing these plans and coordinating these things, I want them to remember that they're an absolute embarrassment who can't even write a freaking paper. Like, it's a joke. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, it's so embarrassing, and it's the reason that nobody wants to say I'm a Democrat anymore. I'd much rather describe myself as like a progressive independent than a Democrat because this is so embarrassing.
I'd rather be called a
everyone
leftist.
involved. Right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
For background, in February of 2025, so this is 3 months after the election, 3 or 4 months, Martin criticized the DNC for not releasing the 2016 Hillary autopsy, saying, why did they not release it? What was the point in creating it? So, like, he was the one that was like, this document's important and it needs to be released. Then fast forward to December 2025, Martin says, actually, we did finish the report. We just decided it would be a distraction, but we're going to use the findings internally to inform our decision making. And then since December, he's obviously claiming the report was never finished. It wasn't good. It doesn't live up to my standards. So, like, he's just lied for 2 years, effectively. Also, these autopsies should come out a few months after the election, not a year and a half after.
And also, it's a joke. It's
Right.
a joke of a... Continue. Sorry, I hate this report so much. It's a joke.
So I was thinking about, like, what is really happening? Obviously, there's disagreement over what to put in this report, right?
Of course. Yeah, 100%.
The fact that Kamala was pushing for it, this is totally my theory I just came up with this morning when I was catching up on the news about all this stuff. I think the legitimate part of the autopsy findings was that Biden was a disaster. Biden's age was a complete disaster as his presidency went on. And the number one sin of running again.
Without a doubt.
Not
Yeah,
saying
for sure.
running, obviously he later dropped out in the summer, but like the decision to run again, I'm sure any legitimate autopsy would focus on Biden's age and insistence he's the only guy that can run until a few months before the election. And that makes Kamala look better, right? Because what could she have possibly done?
It was cooked from the jump.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So my theory is like it's pro-Biden versus anti-Biden, people within the party fighting over it. And that's what caused it to be such a mess. Like Martin saying like the annotations aren't even complete or accurate and all this stuff. Like, what do you think about that? That like they just can't, the Democratic Party can't, there's still too many diehard Biden people for them to release a report accurately criticizing Biden's role in 2024.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. And I think it's part of the internal rift in general between just moving on from Obama era politics to kind of politics that like the Zoran type, like the meeting the moment politics, you know? And that division is so clear from what it means, not just from Biden himself, but like what the departure from that type of politics represents, you know? Like one thing that very conveniently is left out of here is the Democrats' own polling about how much Biden/Harris's views and statements on Israel were in terms of not letting people come vote. You know, so many people who polled that they voted for Biden the first time didn't vote for Harris due to their stance on Israel. Now, how that's not in any credible report when you're genuinely, like if you're effectively genuinely trying to figure out what went wrong, that's a joke. You know, like that's an absolute joke. And I think, yeah, like why? Well, Biden and many corporate Democrats, you know, have still a favorable view on Netanyahu, on Israel, and really want to kind of move that to the left. And we'll talk about something about that later with Hasan and stuff like that, and like the drama he's even having, like just in general. But yeah, I think that's part of it. I also think, you know, Kamala wasn't interviewed.
Right.
So she was probably, are we confident she even saw it?
Right. I don't know.
You know, like I feel like if anything, this kind of separates Kamala from the DNC a little bit, which I think is good for Kamala,
Right.
You know, but you could also say that's the same with Walz. You could also say that's the same with Biden himself. The fact they didn't interview him either. And I mean, and I think it speaks so much to the lack of political skill that the Democrats have when compared to the Republicans, because not only do the RNC and the GOP establishment interact with candidates much more closely, clearly. They interact with Fox News. They interact with Heritage. They're interacting with world leaders behind the scenes much more closely. The idea that the Democratic Party and the RNC are like the same level of influence on what happens in their party is so low. Like, I was talking to Lee this week, and I was saying, like, the way the RNC works with Fox, there's no equivalent of the DNC working with, a liberal-leaning news site. Like, they may cover things in a bias that helps the Democrats, but it's not because the Democrats tell them to. It's maybe a donor or something, but it's not like the literal DNC, whereas the GOP will literally coordinate this stuff. And I don't think people appreciate it. Another thing that I thought I wanted to hear your take on. Obviously, Biden should have never even ran from the jump. But I actually think that the response after the potential worst debate of American history was even worse than him running. Them saying it was a bad night. You're either with us or against us.
Of course, yeah. The gaslighting that nothing was wrong.
And then him going back on George Stephanopoulos the next week and look even worse, kind of. Like, that's not even in here. Like, man, we maybe shouldn't have gaslit everybody. Like, that was a huge insult to everyone's intelligence. I don't know. I think Michael Steele, who is the former RNC chair, said this great. He said, I don't understand why y'all can't get out of your own way. And I think that's it. I think that's a good way to sum it up.
Yeah, and a lot of parallels between Martin's behavior and Chuck Schumer's behavior recently of just like zero responsibility for how much power they have. Like, these are the two most powerful figures in the entire party.
It's just so upsetting. I'm just so upset. It's just so upsetting.
And they act like they're just like normal citizens. Like, they act like, oh, we're just normal people just trying our best. And like Ken Martin, to lie for a year and a half about this thing and then finally release it, but go, by the way, I'm releasing this against my desires and I don't stand with any of it. Like, I don't see how he didn't. How is that not career suicide? Like, he should have went down with the ship and went, we're never releasing it. It's terrible.
It's an awful report. Well, I kind of think Kamala was like, you didn't interview me. This is a joke. Like, I'm going to run in 2028. What if this thing comes out or in some way people think I'm hiding something, Like, maybe I knew something. And yeah, I think, though, it kind of helps her out a little bit because she's distancing herself from the most incompetent bunch in modern politics, which is the DNC.
And remember, a big story from 2016 was that Hillary and the DNC cooperated against Bernie.
Yep, exactly. And Biden and the DNC cooperate against Bernie twice. So they don't know anything.
Right. And the theory, if Kamala runs again, obviously given her experience, would be that she's the DNC candidate. So maybe this helps, like, prevent that. Because you do not want to be seen as the DNC candidate.
No. Well, the DNC is in deep shit. I mean, they're $3 million in debt right now. I mean, they don't have any cash on hand. So they're a burden in every sense of the word. They're a burden.
And that blows my mind, too, because historically it's easier for the opposition party to raise money, especially when the president is unpopular.
And terrible. And tanking the economy.
How does the RNC have $124 million?
Because
and the DNC has -3.
They're a joke. They're a joke. I think the DNC gets way too much credit as like a legitimate organization. I really do. I don't think people have captured really and truly how inept they've been for a decade now. Right. What have they done well? Dude, like, I'm reading some quotes here. One recommendation is Harris really struggled between painting the picture of prosecutor versus felon. That's your problem? Like, that's out of all the things, that's what you're like, man, she really couldn't really wrangle around the language around that. Maybe she didn't do anything her base wanted her to do and was confined by Biden's actions to truly criticize Biden because you let Biden on too long. I mean, what are we talking about? It's so obvious. Like, what happened,
Yeah.
She ran on a Frankenstein political consultant campaign that made no sense.
Right.
She ran on a pro-fracking, pro-Israel, pro-trans athlete opportunity economy, which I don't even think anyone knew what that meant. It's a joke.
And she also had to continue asserting Biden's fitness for office because he was still
president. She was the
disaster.
VP. It's a nightmare. And also, let's not forget, she didn't even get voted as the candidate. The DNC picked her without doing any research, apparently. According to this, Ken Martin should be fired.
Yeah.
He should lose his job immediately.
I think he will.
Who are they going to replace with him? His best friend, Billy Johnson, and whatever, like some random guy who's going to do more of the same and say they need to go on more podcasts. Speaking of which, actually, not to just keep ranting, no mention of Kamala not going on Rogan in here, which, I mean, that was a big talking point of a strategic error.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and like you said earlier, not to mention Gaza when that was the number one reason she was being criticized from the left. Like, obviously, most of the autopsy should focus on why wasn't she able to win the election, which is mostly about centrist, undecided voters. But, like, you have to mention the one biggest issue she had with the left.
Especially because it really did influence Michigan and, like, and arguably all over the country. Just, like, general lack of interest in her candidacy because of her unclear...
But if the autopsy was honest, it would have focused on Biden's decline and his refusal to step out a lot.
Yeah, of course, 100%.
And I think that's the reason that it wasn't released until now, and that's the reason Ken Martin is trying to appease all sides, and it's not working for anyone. Like, he's trying to appease the Biden loyalists who say Biden was actually totally fine and he should have continued running, and trying to appease the people that are like, Biden's the main reason Kamala lost because of his behavior. So I think it's so cowardly, obviously, to put out a report that you're not standing behind, but I do think that's the only explanation that makes sense to me, is he's still afraid of offending the most hardcore Biden defenders.
Who are clearly influencing a lot of the DNC's decision-making, to some extent.
Right.
Whoever those people are, you know?
Right.
And they're effectively Obama acolytes in some ways. Like, it's a lot of the staff is shared. So it really is, like, partly the Obama brain trust's, like, continuation, which has frankly been horrible outside of Obama. Yeah. And maybe it's because Obama was the most charismatic man of all time that they were able to pull off this stuff. Yeah, it's funny. I think about that a lot. Like, this Obama platform really doesn't work unless you have super, super strong people skills and charisma. Because the actual platform itself is actually quite moderate / slightly right-leaning in 2026, you know? So, I don't know. Speaking of Kamala and her inability to be a politician, let's not forget who absolutely dismantled her when she ran for president against Biden. One Tulsi Gabbard, who many may have forgotten was a registered Democrat for a while. And I don't know, she just randomly went more right because I think she realized she could do better in politics on the right. So she officially resigned this week from the Director of National Intelligence. That now makes, I think, the fourth major secretary / director to lose their job. And they're all women still. We have Pam Bondi, of course. We have Kristi Noem. We had the Secretary of Labor, who I'm blanking on her name off the top of my head. And now Tulsi Gabbard. So the ladies of MAGA are leaving. They're leaving in droves. And I guess that's not surprising. I mean, in the sense of the MAGA base. So she left. She's saying it was because of her husband being sick, which, of course, hope he's okay. I think it's bone cancer. That's depressing. I highly doubt that was the main reason. I think she was getting under a lot of fire because of the Iran war. I mean, her top advisor, Joe Kent, remember, resigned because he said there was no evidence to suggest Iran posed any threat to the U.S., which was obviously a big part of the story. She also has, like, kind of flip-flopped in testimony about, like, what the deal is with Iran, you know, every time they talk about that. And the DNI is supposed to be very, very independent, like, not partisan at all. It's kind of in the same bucket as the Fed head or, like, something like that. Like, because it's just intelligence. It's supposed to be national security. It's not supposed to be. And she was already being partisan. I mean, remember she went into the Georgia office about like trying to find the voter fraud that never pulled up in Fulton County. Yeah, it's gone. She's gone. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I hope her husband is okay. But all in all, this is another incompetent person leaving a job that was way too hard for them to do because they weren't smart enough.
Right.
I mean, frankly.
Yeah, and she's such a political opportunist, too, with how she's... I mean, she went from being a Bernie Democrat
Yeah.
to MAGA within, like, 2 years. And
it's just crazy.
And I think the big reason is what you mentioned is her saying in the past year that she does not believe Iran is close to a nuclear weapon, which this entire war relies on the lie that they're close to a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
So for the director of national intelligence, who is literally the person that should know the most about the capabilities, saying they're not even close. Like, I think that is the reason. I think from a cynical looking out for her political future thing, the only thing she's been somewhat consistent on is America should not get involved in foreign
Yeah, she's
wars.
in that boat for sure.
That's with Afghanistan, that's with Iraq, that's with Iran, but that's also with helping Ukraine. Like, she does not think we should help Ukraine.
100%.
She's so like the only thing she's been consistent on since she was a progressive Democrat is that we shouldn't be getting involved in foreign policy. So it's interesting that as Trump loses popularity for breaking promises and going into a useless war, this is the time where the director of national intelligence, who's most known for being anti-war, resigns. Like, to me, it feels like she was seeing how this war is going to affect the view of her and Trump moving forward. And she's like, if I'm going to run for Senate or president in 5 or 10 years, like, I can't defend this war. I'm not going to be able to say this war was totally justified. Like, so this gives her the opportunity to say, like, well, you know, towards the beginning of the war, my husband got sick, so I just had to resign. But none of that was my doing. I never wanted to be involved in it.
In fact, I testified to Congress that it wasn't a big threat. You know, like she can 100%. She's such an opportunist, and it's exactly, I think, what is going on here. It's funny how similar her views are to J.D. Vance, if you actually think about it. Because J.D. Vance also, like, no intervention, you know, from Israel to Ukraine to whatnot. Like, he's the same kind of guy. And he's also been fairly quiet on the Iran war, I think, trying to save face. It's interesting, though, and slightly terrifying that we keep losing senior military and intelligence officials mid-war. I still don't think people are taking that into consideration, like how important for national security this stuff is. And so now we have the top 2 people from intelligence resigning now in the last month. We have those generals, remember, from the Pentagon all resigning or getting fired from Hegseth. And then our FBI head, Kash Patel, is apparently hammered on the job all the time, according to the and there's no one protecting anyone. So, and apparently the Secret Service lets can't tell what's going on. So I just continually feel so much less safe, just in general, from all of these things. Because part of me, and not even talking about the CDC and the fact that the penile guy's in charge of the antivirus, like all that crap, like all this stuff just makes me feel worse in general. Like, not even talking politics, not even talking Trump or like whatever, you know, just like in general as being an American who's trying to live a normal, safe life.
Yeah, and I think, like, overall, Gabbard leaving, it does represent this fight within MAGA world of America first versus asserting our power internationally.
Definitely.
Which is kind of like the central story of this Trump term, is that he's just abandoning America first, which was his whole 2024 campaign, was like, Biden cares about other people more than you. And it's just obviously his behavior with Israel and Iran, like, is not America first. Like, he's clearly doing what Netanyahu wants. So it's interesting. Yeah, I wonder, like you said, JD Vance isn't saying much. Like, you do wonder how this is going to look in the 2028 presidential election. Like, if JD Vance is the nominee, like, is he just going to flat out say, I was never in support of the war at all?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I don't know how he's going to answer for all these, 1.8 billion slush fund to Jan 6ers, like stuff like that. Like, all of this will come up. That's the thing
Right.
I don't understand about the Republicans in Congress, period. Like, do they really think Trump will be king forever? Like, this is going to go bad for them. Like, this is, in the long run, this is going to look really, like, they're all gone. They're all going to lose their jobs. And I think a lot of them will get arrested. In the long run, I think this is going to be really bad. Like, Trump and his family will be fine. I'm sure they'll do some fake pardon thing at the end to, like, try to save the cabinet or, but that won't cover the senators. That won't cover the House. People are going to remember this and what you did to tank the economy to some extent. And I don't think, and when the allure of Trump is gone, I think they're all gone.
Right.
It's all,
like,
it's over.
Like, just like the Democrats underestimated Obama's charisma and overestimated everything around Obama.
Totally.
It's the same here, where, like, Republicans are underestimating Trump's charisma. I know it feels weird to say that, but for his base, he has a ton of charisma.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really the one thing he has.
And he legitimately had more charisma in 2016, like when he could actually joke around. He's
right.
gotten
when
significantly
he was
less.
A better open mic comedian 10 years
100%.
ago than he is now.
Yeah.
Like, I think they are, like, I just don't see how MAGA continues past Trump unless you find somebody that's very charismatic. But there's nobody so far.
No. They thought it was going to be DeSantis in Florida, but I don't think he didn't have the chops. He ran against Trump, and he didn't do good. He really had a rough go. Yeah, it's funny. And the military / international intervention continues. Cuba now. My prediction of 2026 back in January was they will do something with Cuba, and that wasn't really like that talked about. So I'm feeling a little. I mean, I'm sad that it's coming to fruition. It's a sad I told you so, but. Yeah, once again, they indicted the island's former leader, Raúl Castro, and I think CNBC said it nice. The quote was, "The Cuba situation is starting to resemble a pre-conflict playbook," which is just like the sanctions, the tight, and I think it's coming more like the Maduro playbook because Cuba is a lot more weakened because of just their economy's destroyed. Their literal power plants aren't working. The Cuban government is having a really tough job. Like, they're not doing a good job. So they indicted a 94-year-old, which is like funny because they obviously indicted Maduro. And that's frankly no update on him, by the way. He's somewhere in New York. I don't know what the hell is going on. Who's running? The question of who's running Venezuela has yet to be answered. But what's funny is after the fact, they started serving subpoenas to a bunch of influencers and people who they said have gone to Cuba. One of them being, leftist influencer Hasan Piker. This other person, Code Pink, the co-founder of Susan Medea Benjamin. They were subpoenaed. And yeah, I don't know what else to tell you. There's other jobs, other, random influencers or people, but Hasan by far is the most famous out of the bunch. And it's linked to this March trip to Cuba. I don't know. It doesn't mean anything will happen, but it is a little terrifying because it's definitely trying to absolutely silence the biggest influencer on the left, which is Hasan.
Right. And also remember, Hasan Piker was detained by customs in May 2025, coming back from France on a family trip where customs police questioned his political views and opinions on Trump, which is so insane and authoritarian.
North Korea, USSR level, insanity.
Right. Like, this shouldn't even have to be said, but, like, we're talking about Americans legally traveling to another country. Like, like, that's all that.
Yeah. No, I know.
And they're obviously throwing a bunch of Red Scare communist. The most amount of times they can say communist and Marxist. It's funny. I read the Fox News article covering this, and they were like, leftist radical Hasan Piker has been subpoenaed for his communist/Marxist trip to Cuba. Like, they literally are just throwing in these words in every sentence to emphasize, like, hey, just in case you forgot, these guys are definitely communists. Which, even if they are, by the way, totally legal. It's a protected political view.
And also, like, who gives a shit?
Right.
Like, there are a lot of people who are like that. Like, what are we... It's Red Scare. Yeah,
you know
exactly right.
Where a lot of Americans travel to all the time? China. and come back and don't get subpoenaed saying, were you over there colluding with the Communist Party?
It's so... Or, like... You know how many Russians and Chinese people are here? Like, this is like what they do in North Korea when you go in. They are like, you're going to have to only see these hotels, no bad comments about our dear leader. Like, it's the same thing. It's the incredible thing of how Trump has more in common with Xi Jinping than he does with Ronald Reagan. Like, and this is more proof of that, like, in terms of how he views government.
Yeah, 100%. And the U.S.-Cuba, like, embargo and everything and all that stuff, obviously, like, has been going on for way too long. And, like, Obama did a lot to, like, start opening that up. And, like,
totally.
Obviously, like, when we were kids, like, Americans were not allowed to travel to and from Cuba. So, like, that's starting to change. But now I think Trump is so eager for any MAGA points he can score by going after a communist in any way. But he's not going to go after China because Trump chickens out against actually powerful people.
Xi's butt when he was
Right.
in China. Oh my God, you're a beautiful man. You're so tall and handsome.
But, like, for people that don't know, like, Cuba is not a pariah state like North Korea is. Like,
No.
Cuba has functional relations with most countries,
I think
other than the
everyone.
U.S.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like, I think at least when I was young, I thought Cuba was a pariah state. Like, that's how, like, kind of the impression America gives off of, like, this is this radical, dangerous enemy that's this small island country that everyone's terrified of them bombing other people and flipping it. And then, like, that's not how the rest of the world sees it at all. They
have
see it
no
as just
military.
another small country
Yeah.
who's, like, somewhat cooperative.
Just a normal country. Just
So, yeah,
another
they are
country.
absolutely nothing like North Korea, and we should have somewhat normal relations with them, considering they're 100 miles from Florida or whatever.
And their people are getting absolutely destroyed from these embargoes. I mean, they have blackouts like every other week or something, and like the hospitals can't do surgery because they don't have electricity. It's a disaster. And they had gotten all their oil from Venezuela, which is what their power plants run on. And when the U.S. kidnapped Maduro, effectively, they said no more oil to Cuba, and that was basically its last lifeline. So, again, like, it's similar with every international conflict. Like, these are just people living their life. Even if you think the Cuban government is this Marxist monster who is awful, they're punishing civilians for their government that they apparently didn't vote for because it's such a communist hellscape. So, like, I mean, I just can't believe how cruel people are to civilians now, specifically the U.S. is. It's just awful. It's awful. And these economic sanctions that they do on these countries, especially tiny little ones, are just so sad. So anyway, it's awful to me. And it just speaks to like this awful relationship that the Trump administration has with the international community. I mean, another thing that they announced this week was that foreigners must leave the U.S. to apply for green cards, which is such a burden on people who live in the country, you know, and a great reason to not get a green card, right, is that.
Of course.
And also, there are many countries that don't have embassies that are operating at full staff. The Afghani one is the good example, but who's to say what the wait time will be if you go back to friggin' wherever, Sudan, and you want to get a green card? Like, what the hell are you going to do? You know, it's a whole problem.
Right. Like, let's say you're a scientist who takes a week-long trip to Boston to interview for some job at MIT, and you get the job. you then have to go back to your home country, apply for a green card, and wait a completely undetermined amount of time before knowing if you can legally enter the country again.
Well, and also the people married to American citizens, right? I mean, so you're telling me, this person marries a French national. They have to go back to France, completely disrupt their entire life to get the green card. There are 600,000 people per year who apply for green cards. So that's a huge number of people whose lives are now potentially completely ruined or really disrupted, I should say, if they wanted to apply.
Yeah, it's just going to create way more undocumented immigrants that aren't vetted, which is obviously ironic considering they're telling us the biggest threat to our lives are undocumented immigrants that aren't vetted.
That's such a good point. Even more of an excuse to not get a visa.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're right. You're right. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. That's smart. Yeah. And it's like, it just for a country of immigrants, we just can't seem to. We really self-loathe. There's a lot of self-loathing. So, I thought this was funny. So this week, Mamdani Zoran, he launched like a Twitch show to do like a Q&A with New Yorkers about what's going on. And it just was great. And obviously, he kind of took that from Hasan, who like is famously on Twitch all the time streaming. That's like how he grew his thing. And it kind of ties to what we were just talking about, but Hasan also gets a lot of ire from the Democrat, like the people we're talking about, the Ken Martins, the Schumers, they've done a lot of hit pieces, or I don't know if they've, directly called for them, but they definitely didn't stop the Democratic, some news from doing hit pieces on them. And I got to tell you, it's kind of the same thing with Biden. Like, I'm not saying Hasan and I agree on everything. No, we probably agree on a lot of things, but we don't probably agree on everything, particularly maybe intervention in general, just as a concept. But I don't even know. I'd have to talk to him. But like, more importantly, he's your guy, clearly. Like, he's your guy. If you're the Democrats looking for your influencer podcaster, he's your guy right now. Hopefully one day we're part of that conversation, like that's the point. But right now, you need Hasan if you want to influence your base to an extent. Totally. I think the rejection of him is so dumb. And so he's kind of in an unfortunate situation where he's kind of getting squeezed on both sides a little bit, kind of like Bernie does. And AOC or whoever.
Yeah, like I think he has started to campaign with some progressive Democrats, like Dr. Abdul in Michigan. And I think that's made centrist Democrats become more aware of him in a way that they weren't previously, like older centrist Democrats. Obviously, younger people will have heard of him. But I just can't believe there are any Democrats in the world of Trump still on the side of like purity testing everyone we associate with.
It's
like,
so crazy.
We are fighting the worst president ever who does unbelievably despicable things and says despicable things on a daily basis. And yet there are still some Democrats being like, I don't think I can endorse Graham Plattner because he once posted on Reddit when he was 28 that he wants to burn the system down. And so that indicates that he's pretty radical. So I don't think we should be associated with someone like that.
It's so crazy.
We need these people, especially people like Hasan, obviously, who spend hours a week streaming. Like, we cannot purity test people that live on the internet because you're going to find something that isn't perfect with your worldview.
And like, it's completely hypocritical to do so because like so many of these things are so nuanced and complex. Like, obviously he's going to say something, oversimplify something because he's an entertainer, effectively a commentator entertainer. Like we are, like, we don't go into the minutia all the time of like, the intricacies of tax bracket policy and like what, so like to try to find something where he says like something about, that they can use to call him an anti-Zionist or like blah, 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 blah. And that's why we shouldn't fund him, or he went a little too hard on what he thought private property should be. Like, are you serious? Like, this is what you're going to like nitpick? And even if I couldn't agree with you more. I would say even more insane to me than like the purity thing, which is insane. It's the same type of purity politics, but like I hear it from like more like traditional Democrats all the time of like they're too pie in the sky. Like there's no realism here. Like the Zoran criticism. Oh, you want to give free buses? Give me a break. I rather vote for the pragmatic Democrat. And like they're not passing the purity test because they're too ambitious, quote unquote, which I think is even more absurd than trying to like dumpster dive for some offensive remark.
Right.
Like, because it's so dumb. And it's so stupid to say this guy is too progressive and too ambitious with where he wants to go. We should take a watered down sack like Chuck Schumer because that'll do work. Clearly that doesn't work. I don't know how many more pieces of evidence they need to see that isn't working. It doesn't work on getting independents. It doesn't work on getting liberals. It doesn't work on getting anything. This mysterious independent class that is like, oh, I don't know. I could do Democrat, Republican, Schumer. And then they go Democrat because of Schumer.
Right.
Like that is not a person. Who is that? I can't find them.
Right. And right. Who are the centrists or Republican leaning independents who are not going to vote for Abdul for Michigan Senate because he's associated with Piker? There's absolutely nobody. Like, if they're not going to vote for him, it's because Abdul himself is too progressive, which is fine, fair.
You're allowed to have your own views.
But they're not going to be like this super progressive guy associated with an insanely popular streamer who's more left-wing than him, and that just crosses a line too far for me to go. Like, I don't think there's anybody out there that fits that.
And you know how I know that's true? Because the current president of the United States associated with Jeff Epstein for decades and had no consequences. And not only you could say, oh, that's not political. He went to the Clintons' wedding. He was a Democrat. He was a registered Democrat, Trump. So like the idea, no, if anything, you could say there are more Republicans who would go leave the GOP for Bernie than like vote for like Nikki Haley, I think, or something like that. Like in a non-Trump world, like I bet you if you said there's a certain percentage of Republicans that would vote for a Bernie type over a, like some JD Vance, like normal conservative guy that they could throw out there, a Rand Paul or like a, whatever, Ron DeSantis or something, you know? And so I just can't believe it, because if the GOP purity tested Rogan, right? He said enough liberal things over the years that they, if they wanted to, could clip him in a way that made him seem like an anti-MAGA, commie. If they wanted to,
totally.
But they don't, because they're not freaking idiots like the Democrats are. They're not idiots. It's tough being a part of a party that is so dumb. I gotta tell you, that's why we made Lonely Liberal. That's why it's called Lonely Liberal. This is why, guys.
Yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to play a clip to end on a little bit more of a lighthearted note, which is my clip of the week. So I don't know if you saw this, but Don Jr. got married this week, and Trump was asked if he would go to the wedding or not. Did you see this clip?
I did.
And I just wanted to play it because I find it so good.
So heartwarming.
It's just a father and a son, loving each other, being there for another. Let's play.
Are you attending your son's wedding this weekend, by the way?
He'd like me to go, but it's going to be just a small little private affair, and I'm going to try and make it. I'm in the midst. I said, this is not good timing for me. I have a thing called Iran and other things. That's one I can't win on. If I do attend, I get killed. If I don't attend, I get killed. By the fake news, of course, I'm talking about. No, but he's got a very a person who I've known for a long time, and hopefully they're going to have a great marriage.
Calling your son a person you've known
so
for a
dumb.
long time is so funny.
He is it's crazy how much he plays the victim for a guy that tries to portray Democrats as always playing the victim. Like the media is going to kill me if I go to my son's wedding, and they're going to kill me if I don't. they're not going to kill you if you go to your son's wedding. And he's like, I'm in the middle of a war. Your main focus is renovating a ballroom. That's what he's spending all his time doing. Like, I don't understand. It's like, who are these people that are going to be like, no way can you attend your son's wedding. That's a bridge too far. You need to be focusing on the White House ballroom. But he plays the victim literally harder than any politician I've ever seen, going, I just can't win. They're going to kill me if I go and kill me if I don't. It's like, no, they're not.
Also,
it's your
calling
son's
Don
wedding.
Jr. a person you've known for a long time, it really cracks me up. like it almost like you go, do you know your son? You know, he's a guy I've known for a long time. Who says that about their own son?
It's
such
so
a weird
sad.
thing to say. And to your point about the killing, there are these great sites that track, you know, how often he's golfing and stuff. I figured we should take a look at that. Did Trump, I love this thing. Did Trump golf today? Donald Trump has golfed 111 out of his 490 days since returning to office. 22.7% of the president he spent golfing. The estimated cost to taxpayers is $155 million. It's so crazy.
That's insane.
And that's off 2019 reports. So this is honestly probably higher. So like the idea that, I can't go to my son's wedding because I'm too busy. He golfs basically every 4 days. He's golfing.
And a round of golf takes longer than a wedding.
100%. He plays 18. I love this picture they have of him. But like 22.7% of the days golfing. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, I wanted to show that.
Amazing.
Lastly, his arch design got approved because of course it did. And he postponed an AI executive order saying he didn't like certain aspects, which I wonder what that means. He bought NVIDIA stock days before he approved sales to China a few months ago, which was awful. I'm wondering that if the aspects that he doesn't like may hurt his portfolio. Because that's probably what it is. But yeah, that's it for me. Do you got anything else you want to talk about? All right, this is a little abrupt, but Rick's internet is acting in and out. Maybe a storm, I don't know. But before we do, let's call it. I'll talk to you later, man.
Storm's brewing. Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
See you, dude.